Insanity, insanity, whatever happened to humanity? Ooh.
Hey guys, TCT here. I am feeling a lot better. My sore throat is recovering splendidly. And now I'm ready to pump up some reviews, and I am ready to use my original voice. If it was gonna get worse, I was gonna have to AI myself. Okay, so we're gonna talk about A Handmaid's Tale. And man, this series is something worth talking about. If those who have never heard of A Handmaid's Tale, y'all into a lot of dystopian series or films that has to do with a lot of things being corrupted when it comes to the law bending by taking away your rights and enslaving you, you need to check this series out. But if you have a weak stomach and you have a little line crossed when it comes to things being let's just say this show isn't for everybody. Let's get into it. A Handmaid's Tale is a dystopian American thriller series that has been created by Bruce Miller. In a dystopian world where it follows a second American Civil War, the society subjects fertile women called the handmaids to childbearing slavery. In this hellish world where women's struggles, where their identity, fertility, and freedoms are being suppressed to the point where it is led to the impossible. But one handmaid will try to make a deadly change.
Make the world better. Better. Better never means better for everyone.
I want to keep on living for her.
Remember your scripture. Blessed are the meek.
And blessed are those who suffer for the cause of righteousness.
This series was a hellish ride from start to finish. Not a perfect series though, but this series is something that a lot of franchises and a lot of creators would talk about and try to produce when it comes to them making books or novels, but refuse to put this on a big screen because of the material that is indicated into these novels that they are afraid that modern audiences would bash or put down because of the mature content that is pushed upon us. But when it comes to A Handmaid's Tale, it's not one of these series that is going to shy away from that. This series is brutal. This series will make you feel uncomfortable. This series is everything mixed with so much emotion that will put you on a brink of you questioning, is this something that we should be looking at? And I think because me watching a lot of series and a lot of shows these days that has been watered down by woke propaganda, and producers and creators and directors have to be pushed to the side because Disney and a lot of other creator companies would tell these directors and producers that we can't really be doing this right now. And that's the point that I'm making, is that these series and these movies now are beginning to lose the creativity of them just doing whatever they want to. A Handmaid's Tale pushes away all that, and they give you a good polished series. So again, if you have been drowned into the censorship of the community of what's been forced upon us and you want to watch this series, be warned that this series does not hold back any emotional punches at all. The series starts off at a very fair pace. Now, for those who I have known that has watched the series, a lot of people have told me that they have watched the series, but they stopped in the beginning half of season 1. And that's because of the pacing. They were saying that the pacing was too dull and too flatlined to the point where it was boring them. And they just stopped watching the series because it wasn't picking up anywhere. And part of me do agree. I feel like the pacing of the beginning of the series should have started off where things was already bad, to the point where we was beginning to feel the characters' motivations when things got taken place. They tried that here, but it was bad mixture to the pacing where things was getting tensionized things was getting more adapted to the characters, where we was beginning to feel like things was not looking good for them, and above all, us caring about these characters. They give us this later on to the project, but you have to bear with the slow pacing that is forced upon us in the beginning half of the whole series. And man, it was worth it, because once you stick to the beginning half of the series, when these women get apprehended, when their rights is beginning to get thrown out the window and they become handmaids, I like how they show you certain scenes of what happened before all this ended up taking place. Like little nitpick signs, like women's credit cards not working, certain people acting a certain way in restaurants, not respecting women at all, especially when women was coming in restaurants with other women, questioning their sexuality or just questioning how they look upon men's perspectives. This is where I was beginning to have a little bit of a disconnect of certain behavior towards certain females on this film. On this series, because I was thinking, were they gonna bash men? Were they gonna trash talk men? And if men gonna bash women, are they gonna have some type of ulterior motive behind all this? I thought it was gonna be one of those type of series where men hate women and men hate women, women type of thing. But no, this series had their own little reasons of why things are being held in place. So if you come in with a logical brain, it would make sense to you of why this hatred is being taken place, especially when it comes to the women's perspective. And that's what matters the most, is that when you're going to act and have a good story, we're coming in to watch a good series. We're coming in to watch a good project. No political bullshit, no woke bullshit, no subliminal message bullshit, and no pushing messages bullshit to identify to LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, none of that shit. What I like about Handmaid's Tale is that they don't want to differentiate showing you that women don't need men or men don't need women, because when they try to push that here, it gets backfired a lot. They want to indicate by showing you that no matter how tight the situation is, or no matter how much you hate certain things, remember, hatred does not have a race. It doesn't have a gender. It has an expression. So it's not like we do not need women. It's not like we don't need men. We need each other. And I think that's the biggest message that this show has been trying to show, or at least in my opinion. We are shown a few characters that show us how things get taking place throughout the entire series, or they get close to die trying, because when these girls are shown the whole aspects of how the law gets taking place, we are shown Gilead. We are shown how the commanders are towards the handmaids, how their wives are to the handmaids, and how the handmaids supposed to act with class, with censorship, with respect, and above all, with superior positive behavior. They train these handmaids like freaking robots, man. And it really felt like it felt unrealistic. I was like, these, you know how when you watch movies that's based in slavery and they give certain slavers certain ways of how they can persuade themselves to not feel like they are in hell that much. But with a Handmaid's Tale, there's none of that shit. Only downtime they have is when they go to sleep. And the series will make you feel like a lot of uncomfortness when it comes to these girls. And that's just when they try to obey the law. When they disobey the law, or when they question it, or when they talk back to the commanders, or when they try to take laws in their own hands by trying to step up into the system, they go through so much shit to the point where I don't even think I have time to explain it. But I'm just going to say it like this. By this show showing us the worst side effect of what happens when you disobey, when you don't listen, when you don't try to behave correctly, they give you a lot of synopsis of what happens when these handmaids are not behaving correctly. And when these girls decide to go to the opposite route of them being good, the series shows you what happens when these handmaids decide to take everything into their own manner of judgment. And one thing I like about this series is that it doesn't hold back. It doesn't hold back at all. It shows you how strict these laws are, how strict these obligations are when it comes to these girls have to obey, especially when it comes to them being in the brinks of them getting rid of their regular lives and becoming handmaids. Like, for example, if you have a child already, regardless if you're with the lover or not, you have to get rid of that child. They take that kid somewhere else and they train that kid in other ways where they see fit. And the foster parents that takes care of your child, they make that kid forget all about you. And that's not even the worst case scenario. There's a lot of worst case scenarios here in this series. But if you are on your way of being pregnant, they have to get rid of that child too. Either the commander that owns the regular, the original Handmaid takes care of the kid, or if you're not pregnant, each handmaid has to go through a ceremony on a monthly basis with the commander has to literally rape you in front of their wives. And if you get pregnant, vice versa. They either keep the kid or they send the kid somewhere else so the commanders can take care of that kid, depending on how the handmaid is. These handmaids have so many weird laws and so many uncomfortable laws to the point where some of these handmaids go to deep depression, which most of them do. Some of them go through a deep curiosity state to see how things will be if they go into the good graces of just trying to be nice to these commanders. And some of them go AWOL. Some of them try to take laws in their own hands and try to kill the commanders or try to escape Gilead. And when they try to break these rules, they show you what happens when these handmaids try to, bend the system. Like, for example, if you talk too much, these handmaids get their tongue cut out. If you try to have sex with when you try to have sex with the same sex, they cut off your clitoris. it's freaking crazy, dude. It's so freaking it's so wild, man. And not to say that the handmaids go through this whole propaganda themselves. Even the commanders and the wives have laws that they cannot cross either. And this is where we are shown a few characters that are handmaids to give us different synopsis and different emotions of these characters, to give us different sides of how we're going to progress through this series by giving us different tension, different emotion, and different ways for us to relate to these characters. And I thought it was well done with all of them. Like Elizabeth Moss, her character as June, her main character, was done with perfection. And what I like about her character is that she doesn't shy away when it comes to certain things that she has to do. When it comes to her being the main character, she knows that there are going to be risks that her character has to take when it comes to her trying to lead the handmaids, try to give these handmaids faith, her trying to show these handmaids that there are no signs of no hope if you already know that there is a world outside of Gilead, especially if you have a family of your own. And by her having this type of light, that shows that she has a lot of shit that she has to deal with. Like by her going through these ceremonies, by her trying to go above the commander, by her trying to bend the whole law system. There was so many times where not only that she was in a close to the brink of death, but by her building enough people to help stand against the cause. And some of these people that was with her died right in front of her face, questioning if all this shit was worth it. And this is what I liked about her character too, because even though she was at the verge of breaking, she would see other handmaids already broken. Handmaids with their tongues already cut out. Handmaids with so much shit going on with them to the point where it would give her more encouragement to her to keep moving forward. No matter how dark the path is, you are never far away from home. And this is literally the definition of hope, the definition of fate. As long as you keep moving forward. And she has proven that a lot here. And I feel like for someone like her and her character, it's going to take more than just a beatdown in a certain aspect of her seeing a near-death experience for us to be won over. What is she going through? How deep is a rabbit hole going to go with her character to the point where we're going to believe that she may give up hope any second? It happens a lot in this series. It happens a lot with her character. And you are going to feel like this character may break. You're going to feel like this character may die. You're going to feel like this character is going to lose all sorts of humanity. You're going to lose faith in her a lot, to the point where even I have. But when she picks herself up, it feels warranted. When it comes to series where they show a character that's broken and they pick themselves up, it can be a debatable gesture of people believing if that shit's true or not. But with A Handmaid's Tale, I believed it. I felt like out of all the shit that June has went through, And when she picked herself up, they did enough pacing for me to believe the aspect of her character reaching that point, especially when it came to her going to the verge of breaking and even try to kill people to try to escape Gilead. Because it just shows you how dark this whole series is when it comes to them being in Gilead. Watch the series and see how these girls are being treated, and then you will know what I'm talking about. We even have Madeline Brewer, too, that tries to follow Alfred's character, that is played by Elizabeth Moss. Madeline Brewer, I haven't mentioned this girl since the Cam film. And that was a couple years ago. Jesus Christ. And she again nailed it out of the park. Now, what I liked about Madeline Brewer is that she's the kind-hearted gesture of the series. By her being nice, by her trying to persuade herself to not go into that brink of darkness, she literally has more faith than a lot of people. But at the same time, when she breaks, it's more warranted, because the higher her hope, the higher she falls apart when it comes to her believing how things was going to turn out, especially when it comes to her believing and following June's path of her trying to escape Gilead. She's literally the nice aspect of what happens when a nice person gets hit into a harder aspect of her falling in hell, which she is the ice cream in a volcano. And she was melting a lot, especially when it comes to her being put under pressure. Which leads to Alexis Bledel's character that is played, she plays Offglen. Alexis Bledel, I always thought that was Reese Witherspoon. I don't know why I thought that was Reese Witherspoon's character. But all the same, Alexis Bledel's character was great. It was very freaking good. She was a character that questioned faith, that questioned her authority, that that just questioned common sense. And there were times when she would blame other handmaids too by not sticking up for themselves and try to go against commanders. So you know what I'm going through with this. She is a character that breaks way quicker than all the other handmaids because she just got tired of it. And it's not just because of the things that she witnessed, but the things that they do to her. You are going to understand why she breaks way faster than everybody else, because of what she comes across when it comes to her trying to find a certain good boundary of her being in Gilead. Okay, I'm here. There's probably no sign of me trying to see my family again, so maybe I can make the best for it by just trying to be cool with people and maybe trying to find a love interest. She gets bit hard, so then she fights back. And what I like about her character more than anybody else's is the fact that she has some regrets, but at the same time, it's realistic. She knows that she was going to get fucked up for what she was going to do, but she didn't care about the consequences because they took away a lot of things about her that questions her saying of humanity. Then we have Samira Wiley's character that played Mora. Now, she was literally the aspect of what happens when you play as a character that literally tries to question how things are, and at the same time she is against a lot of things, but she keeps it to herself. She's literally the quiet type of female, and honestly I think she was one of my favorite characters of the series. She is a character that literally a lot of people can relate to, especially when she was literally going against Gilead when it comes to all their rules, all their regulations, and how they was treating the handmaids. But at the same time, she was trying to go against Gilead when it comes to her doing things out of common sense. One thing I like about all these characters that's handmaids that I mentioned is that when they was all under pressure, they all handled it in their own way that was realistic. Even if they was following June. June may have been a good person when it comes to persuasion and advice, but she was bad at certain edges of how to lead the people. So what I like about the series is that all these characters led their own way to not get killed, but there were times where they was going to get murdered. When you have handmaids, when you have commanders and wives, you also have supervisors that are called aunts in the series. That's supposed to put these handmaids in line and train them to be in their best behavior when they come across their commanders. Which you have Aunt Dawn, who plays as Aunt Lydia. I liked her character. Her character was brutal. Her character was diminishing, man. Her character, every time I saw her, I get glued to the screen because you don't know what type of energy she will push out. Do she have to discipline the girls? Do she have to nurture the girls? Do she have to put the girls in her place? And above all, do she have to put the girls in a certain opposition where it's going to make us feel very, very bad for them? And one thing about Aunt Lydia's character, she has a big faith for God. The God in Gilead. They all follow this religion, and everybody has their own gods to follow. But trust me, this is the God where she gets into the collision course of her questioning, is this the right God for me to worship? Is this the right God that is going to lead these girls to justice? Because even though Aunt Lydia goes hard on these women, she wants the best for them deep down. She wants to make sure that these girls are treated well and these girls are respecting their commanders well. She really feels as if they have their head in the right shoulders and they are blessed correctly, if they are trained correctly, then everything should be straight. But this is when everything gets fall flat, because when these girls lose their shit, it's mostly because they are following Aunt Lydia's orders because they see how nice she is towards them. So when Aunt Lydia is hearing all these bad things about that these girls are misbehaving because of what the commanders is doing to them, then that's when Aunt Lydia literally puts them in a place in very uncomfortable ways. And Dodd's character, no one could have done what she did. There are other aunts that are like her on the series due to more commanders being around Gilead. But man, when I felt tension was when she was around and it was warranted. There was even times I was afraid of this character because she was bipolar at a lot of moments. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Someone needs to get this girl out of this. You're not going to hate Aunt Lydia. I'm letting y'all know this right now. Even though Aunt Lydia is the one who orchestrate how these girls are going to get discipline, get put in a place, I'm pausing because we're getting into the heat of what will make you really feel uncomfortable, which is Joseph Fiennes that play as Commander Fred, the main commander of the series. You are not going to like him. You are not going to like him. The things that he does to these handmaids and the fact that he gets away from it, he gets away with it, you are going to hate his character. The fact that he has a lot of power, he demands a lot of respect. How would you feel if somebody punches you in the face, smacks you, have sex with your girlfriend, and you just have to just sit there and shake that person's hand? Because you know if you talk back, that is instant death. That's clearly Commander Fred's character. He has a lot of power. He will make you want to have him dead. Period. So I'm gonna have to say this. Joseph's character did well. He did the job that was supposed to be done, and that was for me to hate him. And that is not saying much for his wife, which is Yvonne, who played as Serena Joy, Commander Fred's wife. You are going to hate her way more than Fred. And the reason why I'm saying that is because by her being aware of how the handmaids are, especially when it comes to Elizabeth Moss' character, they bump heads a lot when it comes to them trying to reason with each other. By them both being women, she feels as if she can persuade Serena. And this is where I hate Serena so much, because she knows how her husband is. She knows how things are. She knows how things are being bent. She knows how her husband is going above the law. So there are so many times where she can easily just cut off certain things. But one thing I hate about people that have power is when they use their persuasion to get out of that jurisdiction to make themselves be a victim. And she does that a lot here. You're gonna hate her way more than the queen of the Lannisters from Game of Thrones. I forgot her name. You think she's the bitch? She is a bitch here. And they design her for you to make you feel uncomfortable. She gets like, oh my God, dude. I don't want to spoil it, but those two people will make you hate the series, and it will make you want to watch it more because you want to see the fate of these characters if they are literally going to live through a whole entire project. And that's actually the major power of this whole series, is the fact that when you go to each season, you begin to see not just how these handmaids are personally, but you begin to see how the commanders are personally, how the wives are personally, and why they're doing what they're doing. You may not agree with most of their standards, but you will mostly understand why they chose to be in Gilead, why they treating these people like shit, why they executing people without any type of remorsement, because of how they was before things got bad, before laws was taking place, how they was as a real person. And part of me was seeing the darker side of how they was, while I was seeing the brighter side of other people. But either way, I was beginning to understand in both aspects. And I agree with some, but I didn't agree with some others. But I was beginning to understand majority of the aspects of how these characters were getting taken place. Perfect pacing, honestly. Even though we had dull pacing in the beginning of the series, as I was beginning to get hooked into the project, the pacing and the tension and the acting was getting more and more warranted, to the point where when things was happening, and even if there was having downtime, I was feeling as if I was still getting hooked into the screen, even though it was nothing going on. It was like I was watching a Quentin Tarantino film. It won me over. It really won me over. Wrapping this project up after season 5, it ended with a cliffhanger, but it was an acceptable cliffhanger. I'll say that because now they have literally officially announced that season 6 is in the works. So I'm hyped. I'm very hyped. I want to see how things are going to get played out with June, with everybody else, with the Handmaids. How they're going to make it out of this alive? Are they going to make it out of this? And above all, what is going to happen with the fate of these characters, man? And it's not just with them. I want to see what is going to go on with everybody else. Every single character, I am literally on the hinges to see the fate of them. And with the Handmaid's Tale, it won me over. It really did win me over. It's been a long time since I've seen a series, and I want to get hooked into the project, and continuously. I thought I've reached to a certain age where I just can't watch series over season 2 anymore. But A Handmaid's Tale has won me over. I'm gonna have to give A Handmaid's Tale I'm gonna have to give A Handmaid's Tale an A. I try not to spend too much long on this review, but how can I if I'm talking about a series that has up to season 1 through 5? I'll probably cut off some parts that is not necessary because I did stumble a lot. But man, this series was a lot to swallow. But anyway, that's all I have to say for today. Please stay tuned to my upcoming reviews and videos headed your way. This is Hugo, your critic teacher. You guys have a damn good day.